You're listening to Superpowers of the Soul on the Superpower Up Podcast, the show that elevates superpowers to the divine.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Jennifer Urezzio, superpower expert and founder of Soul Language, and this is Superpowers of the Soul, and I'm very excited because I get to spend the day today with Renée Emery, and the topic is the conscious mind. Welcome, Renée.
Thank you, Jennifer. I am so excited to be here.
It's going to be really fun. So here's my first question I ask everyone. What do you consider the superpower of your soul?
I consider my superpower to be, I guess my top superpower, I'll say, is empathy. Because I actually think that you can have more than one superpower. And I also think that your superpowers can also change over time as you start to grow and transform your own consciousness. Those superpowers can change and they can grow with you. But for me, I'd say my top one is probably empathy. And I also, as a matter of fact, did the quiz on your website to check what my superpower was. And guess what? It told me my superpower was empathy. So I thought that was great confirmation. It was a fun quiz, too.
Yeah, that was really fun. I mean, Tanya came up with that quiz, and it's, you know, after you sent me that, and I have to tell you, I forgot. It's written down somewhere. But I was like, what quiz? I should do the quiz. And I did the quiz, and I was like, oh, my God. So, you know, I love that, and I love your answer. You know, I've asked this question now for several months, and you're the first person that has remarks about how it can grow and it can change and it can grow in consciousness as we do. So I love that explanation, because it's true. As we go in consciousness, everything expands, including the ego. It gets more sneaky. And so I love it. It does, right? It's like, and listen, I love ego, and we're going to talk about this more when we talk about the conscious mind, because without ego, we'd be all on our couch thinking our big thoughts, right? But, you know, ego is action-oriented. And, you know, there's ego on crack that I'm not so in love with. So what do you consider your sacred purpose? So often people will talk about their sacred purpose as a doing, but it's really a fundamental being state, what you're here to really experience and then offer that experience to others. So what do you consider your sacred purpose?
I consider my sacred purpose, and actually I consider everybody's sacred purpose to just love, to be loved, to give love, to receive love. I think that's what we're at our core. That's really what we're here to do. I know that sometimes living in this 3D world that we are in, it can be a little bit challenging to always be in that place and in that space. But I really think that at our core, that's what we're here and to do and what we're meant to do. I mean, sometimes it can just be as simple as, you know, a kind gesture or a smile to someone that can really make their day. You have no idea what's going on in someone else's mind and, you know, where they are. And just that little thing that you take for granted, saying hello or, you know, opening the door for someone. It can do so much for people. So that's what I think is part of my sacred purpose. The other part I feel is teaching, coaching, helping to lift people up, and particularly to lift women up to stand in a bigger place of their power. And when I say power, I don't necessarily mean power, the kind of power that, you know, I'm going to take over the world kind of power, that ego-driven power. But I'm talking about the kind of power that we really have within ourselves to love ourselves, to respect ourselves, to know that we are worthy, to know that we're enough. A lot of people just don't understand that that power exists within them. And so part of my sacred purpose is to help them go in and see that it's there and uncover it and bring it out into its fullness and its beauty.
You all can't see me, but I'm nodding my head. You know, and, you know, when you were bringing up, you know, your sacred purpose is love, and you feel like it is everyone's sacred purpose, it was reminding me of this experience I keep having, you know, at the center I go to for spiritual living here in Morristown. There's this woman who periodically comes up to me and apologizes. She's like, I am so sorry that I was rude to you that day with the meeting. I was just in pain. And I keep telling her, well, thank you very much, but that wasn't me. And, and she's solid of mind, but somehow she's connected me to this experience that she's had. And so she keeps coming up, and all I keep doing is going, oh, that's okay. I didn't even think about it. Don't worry about it. Don't even pay attention. Hold on, my computer's going all off. Don't even think about it. It's no worry. And, it's like she's coming up to me because she needs this fierce love. And so when you were talking about it, I was thinking about that. And you basically answered my next question about your sacred purpose showing up in your work. So, you talked about how your work here is to, really help people understand and see and kind of tease out that wonderful power. And I just want to go on record, and I'll say it again because I've said it before. Nobody has any more power than anyone else on this planet. It's how we focus it and use it.
Absolutely.
There's no difference between you and me and the Dalai Lama. He just uses his power really good, right? So how does that sacred purpose, how else does it show up in your life and in your work?
Well, like I said, in my life, it's all about just trying to be that loving person and to carry that with me wherever I go in whatever situation that I'm in, and just, keeping it in my mind, in my heart as much as possible. Some days it's a little more challenging than others. I'll admit that, because I am human. But certainly just keeping it with me. In my work, I'm a life coach and a mindset mentor. So I teach people and encourage them to uplift themselves. And basically what I do is I use universal spiritual principles like the law of attraction. But I try to do that in a more practical way. And the reason I try to use a more practical approach to it is, one, it's kind of because it's how I'm wired.
Right.
So,
if you can't use it in your life, it's hard to use.
Exactly. But also because I understand that a lot of people are kind of starting to get turned off by religion, and sometimes when you say spirituality, they immediately go to that woo-woo place where it's so far out there and so far out of the norm that they aren't comfortable with that either. So I try to bring that back down to earth, so that people can actually use those principles, because those are really the principles and laws that really guide us. And it's just a matter of understanding better how they work, and not only how they work in general, but how they can work for you.
Beautiful. I love that. And people will hear this time and time again, I have that warrior energy. I'm very tangible. And so if it doesn't work in my everyday life, I'm not going to implement it. And we're not just here to be spiritual. We're here to embody that. So the last question before we break here is, what has been a common theme that your soul has shared with you throughout your journey?
Common theme. That is really a very good question. I'm going to say, I think it's all about healing for me, and using love and nurturing to be a healer. I think I was a born nurturer. I was the little kid who, I would cry over the cartoons and the fairy tales and everything. I was very empathic. And so, I was also the kid that would, pick up the broken butterfly in the yard and have to try to nurse it back to health and everything. So just being a born nurturer, that's been like one of the big themes in my life. And the other big theme, I think, has been sort of being a seeker. At a very young age, I knew that there was something bigger than me. And even though I grew up in a Christian household, Southern Baptist, Deep South Southern Baptist, I just instinctively knew that there was something bigger than our little church or the choir or the congregation at the church. And I think even as a child, I was always kind of seeking and searching for something more, for something bigger, and trying to tie it all together. And the work that I do, I believe it helps other people to sort of tie it all together and put the pieces in place as well.
I love that. So before we break, let people know how they can get in touch with you, how they can experience more of you. What's your website address?
My website address is coachingbyrenee.com, and I am also on Facebook and LinkedIn, and so people can reach out to me at Coaching by Renee or by Renée Emery, and I'd love to chat with you.
Beautiful.
Stop by.
So stay tuned. We're going to have a deeper conversation about the conscious mind when we return.
Fabulous.
Are you here to change the world? Do you talk about things like vibration, frequency, awakening, and consciousness? Are you pretty sure you have superpowers? The Superpower Net is unlike normal coaching programs and conscious communities. We provide training, intuitive guidance, peer-to-peer learning, intensive one-on-one coaching, and a high vibrational network of people just like you. When you join the net, you get 24/7 access to a collaborative group of people who support you as you master your personal power and unlock your superpowers. If you're ready to use your superpowers to change the world, then join the Superpower Net today. Visit superpowerexperts.com/thenet to learn more.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. This is Jennifer Urezzio, and I'm talking to Renée Emery, and we are talking about the conscious mind. So let's get on the same page together and with the audience. So tell me, if you could share with me your definition of conscious.
Okay. My definition of conscious is that it is all about awareness, of being aware of what's going on in your world and around you. Some people are now calling that being woke, and we can use that term as well, being woke. But when I say it, I'm not speaking about it from so much of a political standpoint as more of a soul standpoint. And to me, conscious mind is really about enlightenment and that searching for the journey to get there. And it's about deep soul and spiritual awareness. Because, I mean, after all, we are just, spiritual beings having this human experience here. So that's really what it means to me.
Beautiful. And I would agree with a lot of that as well. For me, being conscious is really, really deciding how we want to respond to the world, knowing that we're whole and complete, and then treating the world like they're whole and complete. And, the title is The Conscious Mind with a big M, right?
Yeah.
And to me also that is like universal goodness, right? It's like the big mind. And then you're an expert in that mindset with the little m, right?
Yes.
Our
yes.
internal mind. So, if someone is just, or even wants to work on kind of being more conscious with their mindset, what little steps could they take today to be more aware?
I think the first and easiest little tiny step that they can take is to just be still. That is the key to everything. I mean, we are all moving so fast and just fast and furious, like the movie says. Just going from one thing to another. And, we've got the 24-hour news cycle. We're on social media all day, every day. It never ends. There's just stuff happening all around us, and thoughts and, things going on. And so just taking time to sort of step back from everything and just get still, get quiet. And for many of us, it can be somewhat of a challenge to do that because we're so used to having so much activity all the time. But that's really the easiest and the best way, and probably the first thing that you should do is just kind of sit and be still, or lay down and be still. And that doesn't mean that you've got to, cross your legs and go into this deep meditative state. I mean, if you can do that, then that's perfect. But if you're just starting out, just get still and just listen to the stillness.
Yeah, I think, one of the reasons why people always get these bright ideas in the shower is because it's really the only time that they really are still sometimes.
Yes,
right?
yes. Or right before you're falling off to sleep at night, you finally quiet it down and
And bingo, there's the big awareness or the big idea or, kind of the big release. So, where do you feel that kind of, and I don't mean this in a judgmental way at all, but where do you feel people kind of fall down in mindset, behaviors or expression?
I think a lot of times, like I said, it has to do with the constant activity that we are all experiencing all the time. And there's so much negativity out there. It feels like now more so than ever. And maybe it just feels that way because we are on that 24-hour news cycle. And so we're constantly bombarded with it. But I think that's one of the main ways that folks kind of fall down. We start to get into this thing where we're always judging ourselves. We're always judging other people. Just turn on the TV on any given night and there's 10 shows where people are being judged, whether it's for their singing, their dancing, their talent, their business, whatever. So we're kind of, we're in that mindset of we're constantly judging, we're constantly comparing. And those are ways that people tend to fall down in their mindset and start bringing in the negativity. And then they're starting to feel that sense of worthlessness or that they're not enough. And that happens a lot, unfortunately.
Yeah. And I think that, as we judge someone else, we're judging ourselves, right? And I think people get very confused about judgment and not resonating. Mm-hmm. So when something doesn't resonate, everyone, there's no attachment to it. It's like, I don't like cauliflower. I don't like cauliflower. I'm not judging cauliflower. I'm not getting mad about cauliflower. I just don't like it. There's no attachment there. But when you're judging something, you can feel the attachment. You can feel the angst in your body. You can feel yourself reacting to it. And that not enough starting in your head. And, Renée, not enough is such a big theme in our world. As this amazing coach, what do you suggest people do with their conscious mind to help stop the pattern of not enough?
There are actually quite a few things that we can do to help stop the pattern of not enough. And one of the things that I've done in my coaching practice is I put together a system that helps people deal with that. And it's got 5 components to it. And I'd love to share that with your audience right now, just so that they could get a sense of what it involves.
Well, I don't know how long 5 components will go, but can we do at least one?
Sure. The first one starts off with just simple laying a foundation, and it's what I call integrated prayer. It's what we talked about a little bit earlier, which is basically getting still. And in integrated prayer, what I work with my clients on is having them to just, open up to receiving messages from the divine. Speaking those messages that they want out there, and then sitting still and getting quiet and just receiving the messages to get practical guidance that they need to help them feel more peace, feel more calm, and to better maneuver through the world and all of the madness in the world that we're dealing with right now.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I'm a big, affirmative prayer, writer. I've taught plenty of power of prayer classes. So I love that this structure is, and it's, I would assume you did number 1 because it's number 1, right? The number 1 of let's pause, because let's actually listen to what, not your mind saying, but what the divinity, universe, tree, Bob, God, cupcake really wants you to know. I mean, that alone, if you just do number 1, can totally transform your life. So before I ask you the last question here, why don't you just talk briefly about the second structure that you have?
The second structure that I have gets into mindset and how to up-level your mindset. We talked a little bit earlier about people being sort of on this negative journey, this journey of negativity. And what we want to do is sort of get in there and figure out what people's beliefs, patterns, and behaviors are. And we create what we call an actual energy blueprint to find out what they're thinking, believing, and what are those things that are actually holding them back from moving forward. And those things, those beliefs, are what create their mindset. And so we want to find out where the problems lie and then change that to turn it into something more positive so that they're vibrating at a much higher level and move them forward.
Beautiful. So before I ask you the last question here, let people know how to get in touch with you to find out more about these 5 structures and to get more of a sense of who you are and what you offer.
Absolutely. Again, my website is coachingbyrenee.com, and you can find me on Facebook, and you can find me also on LinkedIn. And I'm there as Coaching by Renée, or you can find me under my name, Renée Emery.
Beautiful. So if you were a magnet on the refrigerator of whatever you call your higher power, whether that's universe, tree, Bob, God, cupcake, what would that magnet say?
If I were on the refrigerator as a magnet, one of my favorite quotes is, "It's not about the destination, it's about the journey." So I would probably be a quote that says, "It's all about the journey." There's so much that goes on in our journeys, and sometimes we get so focused on the end result, and getting that end game, that we don't focus on the day-to-day things. We're not conscious of what's happening to us just on a daily basis. We're not taking that time to be quiet and be still. And so I'd like to focus on the whole journey and each little piece of that.
You're missing all the good stuff trying to get to the prize at the bottom.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, everyone, if you liked what you heard, you can connect with me and all the other experts in the Superpower Net, superpowerexperts.com/the-net to find out more. Thanks for listening, and thanks to my guest, Renée. And don't forget to find your connection.
Are you ready to discover your superpowers? Go now to superpowerexperts.com and take the Superpower Quiz today.